Now, MD, voice of God, please. Is that a live shot of Dublin, Ireland?
That is
right
a
now?
live
Was
shot
it
of
like,
Dublin.
It was like 6-7 hours in front of us. Is that what it is?
Yes,
Look
sir.
at that. I'm guessing there's a pint of Guinness flying around there, maybe some green beer, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm not Irish, but I could be. Today I'm Irish, though, folks. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. All right, welcome back. Happy Monday. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, good friend, held a press conference earlier today talking about the tornadoes and storms that hit the South and Midwest. This was just a couple hours ago. Watch.
First today, I want to address the devastating tornadoes and storms that have impacted many states throughout the South and the Midwest. As of this morning, more than 40 innocent lives have been lost and many communities have been totally destroyed. The president has been actively monitoring the situation, and the Trump administration is engaged with governors and local officials to restore affected communities and livelihoods. Everyone impacted is in our prayers, and President Trump is fully prepared to assist state and local officials as they recover from the horrific damage.
Mandatory. You know, mandatory. There's natural disasters that go on, and all these governors of states who say that they're going to defy Trump's federal laws on certain things that he's throwing down. And, you know, the governor of was it Maine or Massachusetts? Someone up north said they're going to defy his orders, his laws. And he said, well, you may really want to rethink that. Again, natural disasters require federal help. If you're going to defy his laws, he might not push assistance the way he would. He's warning you in advance, governors, get on board. Caroline Leavitt also addressed the military action that was ordered by President Trump against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. Watch.
President Trump ordered decisive military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. These Houthi terrorists have engaged in piracy, violence, and terrorism against American ships for years under the Biden administration, costing billions of dollars and putting innocent lives at risk. Joe Biden's pathetic weakness invited these unacceptable attacks. But there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Donald Trump. And the world is officially on notice. America has a commander-in-chief whose peace through strength approach is unwavering and should not be tested. As the president said, no terrorist force will stop American commercial and naval vessels from freely sailing throughout the world. Houthi terrorists and their Iranian backers should not cross President Trump again.
And that last part was the most important part. Houthi terrorists, we know Yemen is basically, they don't have a government in Yemen. There's literally no government. It's run by a bunch of different gangs, terrorist gangs. Some are terrorists, some are just thugs and outlaws. And what the Houthis do, these specifically, not just the Houthis, but others in Yemen, they just wait for commerce to ship by in the waters that pass by Yemen, and they attack and they steal and they pirate and they sell, and that's how they support themselves. And Trump's right. Start busting their chops. Start, dropping some bombs on them. Stop messing with the commerce that's happening, because it's with our ships and with our allies' ships. But the most important part of that was with Iranian backing. So the Houthis, whatever they can't steal and pirate, they're helped by Iranians. And you see how awful this Iranian regime is? Everything associated with them, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthi terrorists, Yemen, horrible, just terrible, terrible people for the world, for global commerce, for humanity. And Trump is right, he's going after them. President Trump's tired of Tren de Aragua gang members also taking over our cities. Who can forget when Tren de Aragua was taking over full condominium complexes in the city of Denver? They put Americans in danger, so Trump's had enough. Watch.
President Trump signed a proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by the foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua. At the president's direction, the Department of Homeland Security carried out a counter-terrorism operation deporting nearly 200 violent Tren de Aragua terrorists, which will save countless American lives. Thanks to the great work of the Department of State, these heinous monsters were extracted and removed to El Salvador, where they will no longer be able to pose any threats to the American public.
Really, really important to understand what's going on here, because a judge, an activist judge, not a real judge, an activist judge, literally tried to halt this, sending terrorists back on an airplane to where they came from. And then there was an intervention. We're going to get more into it. We're going to talk more about this with counterterrorism operation with former FBI Special Agent, former Navy SEAL, Jonathan Gilliam. Thank you for joining us, Jonathan. So there's been a lot of back and forth. Trump catches these criminals or puts them on a plane, tries to send them back to where they come from, Venezuela, Tren de Aragua. And then a judge says, hold on, in the air, hold on, you can't send them back. Why not? So now before they get sent back to our shores, Trump makes a deal. Bukele in El Salvador says, we'll take them. What a great friend Bukele has become to the United States. What are your thoughts on this back and forth with getting rid of criminals and getting pushed back by an activist judge in America?
Well, first off, I'd like to know this relationship that Trump has with the Ecuadorian president, because before he had some harsh words for him at one point, and that kind of just went away. So I don't know what happened there. Just put that beside the fact. But I think what we need to look at here, before we even, Eric, look at the judges, these activist judges, we need to look at Iran and how they work. And people need to realize that Iran, although they may seem like some third world military radical force, the reality is Iran is one of the top 5 intelligence forces in the world. And they are highly trained, highly sophisticated, way more than they are as far as their air power or conventional military. So how do they work? Well, they use their intelligence services to basically create these proxies. And then they use those proxies to do the fighting for them. You notice Iran rarely ever does any fighting of their own outside of their own borders. Now, when you think about the way they use proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and about 40 other groups that we don't really hear about in the Middle East, you also have to realize the way they use the people who are protesting and rioting in support of Hamas here, the way these judges act here. I believe if we pressed enough and looked close enough at these judges, at many of the Democrats and the Democrat Party, a lot of these protesters, that they are also proxies. Now, whether they realize it or not, they are doing the dirty work for Hamas and for Iran. So how does that come into these individuals that are being called back by these judges? Well, when you look at the reality of how all this stuff ties in, once again, the protesters from Hamas, these activist judges know that these people are going to get deported. And they know that when that deportation happens, that they are actually getting rid of Iran's ability to operate within the United States using their proxies, not people who throw guns or you throw grenades and use guns, but people who use our laws against us. And these judges, knowingly or not, are actively participating in that. And so when we look at Venezuela and we look at that group of gang members that are over here and the way that these judges are acting, and also the Democrat Party, it makes no sense on a legal standing, on a national security or public safety standing. But when we look at how all these other things occur, it makes sense that either they're in cahoots with Iran or they are so liberal that they don't realize how they're being handled.
I'm trying to figure out, and by the way, MD, great job, that apartment complex in Denver you just showed a second ago on that B-roll. It's called B-roll. It's that right there. That's Tren de Aragua. Those are Americans inside that apartment complex. Those are gang members banging on the door, loaded up, gunned up to the hilt, and scaring the living daylights out of Americans and sometimes robbing them. Who knows what else they're doing to them. And so Trump says enough of this and takes this, declares Tren de Aragua basically a terrorist organization, says we're going to round them up and send them back. Jonathan, here's my question. How is it that liberals, leftists, liberal media, Democrats allow all these thugs to come into this country and don't say a word? Mouths shut, just let them come in. But Trump sticks them on an airplane and sends them back to criminals, back to their own country. And all of a sudden, he's the racist. He's the one who's violating the Constitution. He's the one who's threatening democracy in America. When did sending criminals back home become a bad idea for the left?
I think this goes back to when the squad came on board and they started going super fast with the way they wanted to change things. And that's when AOC and Nancy Pelosi and the squad kind of didn't sit so well at first. And then what happened? Nancy Pelosi got pushed out of the way. Now you see what's happening with Chuck Schumer. I think if you go back to that era, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they were the ones who went way to the left from the time of Reagan and the Bush 41 and those Democrats during that time. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer came about slowly about their power, but the new group of Democrats quickly came in and basically ousted the old school. And so what you're having now is this far left activism that is about as deep intellectually as social media. And they believe that things should just be the way they want. The scary part is libertarians are not that much different. And so what we have is staunch conservatives and people who believe staunchly in the Constitution. And then you have this left, which is so far gone now, you can classify them as socialism or socialists, but it's even further than that. And so the things they do, Eric, make no sense to you and I. And when that is the case, when I look back on my investigative career, these people are either nefarious criminally or they are psychologically off. And so they just don't have a sense of what reality is all about.
We've been warning about this for 4 years. Well, really,
Right.
yeah, even longer when Obama was there, but mostly in the 4 years under Biden, where that southern border became just an insanely wild Swiss cheese open walk across the border. We never had any idea who these people are, and of course, now we're finding out. We're finding them in Chicago and Denver, to show the VO of the apartment complex. They're everywhere, and Trump takes 263, 68 of them, whatever it is, sends them home or tries to send them home, and the left goes apoplectic, and some dumbass judge says, oh, you're not going to do it. You're going to violate their due process. Due process? They're criminal. They broke the law coming here. Then they started breaking the law even further with violent crime. Once they get here, Trump sends them home, and they say they don't deserve squat. And I almost used the bad word, Jonathan. I'm sorry, your thoughts?
They did the same thing with this individual who came over who's Palestinian and then went to Colombia. The reports from the students there with that is that he was a vile individual who they felt violence coming from whenever he was in the room with a Jewish professor. And this guy starts all these protests where people have been held in rooms in Columbia University where they've broken things, caused massive damage and fear. All the things that you define terrorism, the use of fear, intimidation, and violence for a political aim. That's the definition of terrorism. That guy did it. And what happens? The same type of activist judge at the middle level of the federal government is used to block him and from being deported. And so when you look at what happened to Trump, the way that lawfare was used, and you go all the way back to where Trump first started running. I think President Trump was not the catalyst for this nefarious behavior, but he was the catalyst for it to be exposed. And now they just have no problem exposing what they're doing because they believe they're rock solid protected. And I believe, when I started this interview out, what I was saying about Iran, the reason I even introduced that whole subject was the fact that the way Trump is dealing with the Houthis is the way he needs to deal with these judges. You can't go to the bargaining table with them up here and you down here. He has to bring himself up and up to here. And I think with these other world leaders getting involved, like El Salvador, with the speed at which they're going, they are a step ahead of these activist judges and politicians. So it puts him back up here a little bit. And as long as he can maintain that, he has more cards at the table.
Yep. Jonathan, we need to keep you for the break. 2.5 minutes, we'll bring you back. We have a lot more to talk about. All things what Trump's been up to recently. It's making the left go crazy, the Democrats go crazy. The liberal media is trying to figure out what they're going to do with it, yet, I don't know, I'd say he keeps winning and keeps becoming more and more popular. Jonathan Gilliam, back with us after the break. 2.5 minutes, folks. That looks like fun. Kinda. Dublin, Ireland, folks. I guess is that the actual music MD they're playing there, or you add your own? No, we add our own. Okay, let's bring back former FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, you mentioned this crazy Mahmoud Khalil, the guy who's been arrested, but this guy came over as a student on a student visa, and then goes to Colombia and creates this uprising that metastasizes throughout New York City, Trump Tower. He gets arrested, and somehow the left and the Democrats are saying this guy's some sort of political prisoner. This guy should be deported. We should pull his visa. I'm just, look, do you think there's any question that there's a free speech, First Amendment free speech issue, and this certainly doesn't apply to this disruptor, this protester, this antagonist?
Well, I think, Eric, whether it applies to him or not constitutionally, the State Department has the right, if they believe that this guy is an agitator or if he's causing problems in the United States, they have the right to revoke all that and kick him right out of the country. His rights don't extend to the point where he's in charge of whether or not he stays in the country. I think that's the point that has to be made. Does he, as a resident or a green card holder, does he have the right to say what he wants to say? I believe he probably does have those rights. He is welcomed here in this nation and given those rights while he's here, but he's not a citizen, right? They can't just kick an American citizen out of the country. But what the gift that he's been given as a resident or a student visa, that can be revoked. And I don't think that has anything to do with the legal system. And here's where I think that this president can push something that has not been done before that we've seen in recent history, which is to challenge these judges. If you challenge these judges, what is going to happen? I'm not really sure what these judges are going to do, because if they're doing something which we've seen now since 2015, when these judges do things that are unlawful, who's policing them? And what right is it of them to tell this president what he can and cannot do with the executive branch as it is prescribed to him by the Constitution? I would like to see what would happen if they just defy these judges and say, that's not your place to make that decision, and then deport these people. Well, they're not going to bring them back. You know, what's going to happen then?
Until he breaks glass, hurts somebody, he hasn't really committed a crime. But again, when you apply for a student visa, if you say, here I am, you present yourself, I'm coming over, I want to be, I want to suck off the teat of the American government, I want to go to Columbia University, I want to do it on a student visa, but when I get there, I'm going to create an uprising, I'm going to make it so Jewish students can't even go to class, I'm going to be so disruptive. Yeah, it might not hurt anyone, but I'm going to be so disruptive because it's going to be my First Amendment right in your country. He would never have gotten the visa in the first place. So why not be able to throw him out? What's with these activist nut job judges? They're not even judges anymore. They're just liberal, progressive Democrats trying to spew their garbage on the rest of the American public.
If a German came over here and attended Columbia and then outwardly started wearing Nazi gear and started calling for the death of African Americans, these judges would have that person kicked out of this nation immediately. If an American citizen did that, and they would be arrested immediately and lose all their rights and put in jail. Hey,
Jonathan, if a white guy with a MAGA hat did it, the same judge would throw him, would probably send him a Gitmo.
Right, and so I think these are things that I would like to see President Trump and his administration bring up, because part of standing up against these activist judges and getting that leverage that I talked about before is getting in front of them, having your talking points prepared, and being willing to step out and say, we are going to defy this judge because what they are doing is out of the purview of what the law and the Constitution defines as their job. And I think—
Let me ask you this, John. I mean, this is something hit right to your expertise. How much trouble are we in with all these people that have come across the border unvetted? We don't know where they're coming from. Clearly, a lot of them are on the terror watch list. How much trouble are we going to be seeing in the next couple of years based on all this stuff and your expertise?
Well, I think the people that could cause the trouble are here. I think the amount of people that are needed to carry out attacks are here. Whether or not they have logistically gotten their hands on explosives and enough weaponry to carry out attacks, I mean, it really doesn't take much. You could stick a couple of guys out there with knives and they could cause fear and panic all across this nation. I think there is enough here to do that. It's who is going to motivate them to do it, and I think this is something that we need to be prepared for. The left and those individuals that are out there that hate this nation and hate President Trump, they are more connected than people could ever imagine. And I think that whether or not the left is involved in things like attempted assassinations of the president, I think that when we look at the way that the Secret Service allowed those funnels to exist so that people could take shots at the president, if this government under President Trump, that where these political people that are political in nature, that are senior executives and people that are ground agents, if those people allow these avenues of approach to occur, then this stuff will happen. Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing, Eric. One thing I'd like to see. This is a little bit off topic, but Kash Patel, I'm having a bit of a problem with his social media campaign to talk about how he's found the real bureau, and there's videos of him with HRT, the hostage rescue team. That is not the real bureau. The real bureau is full of mafias that will undermine everything this president has to do. And I think that should be his main goal, is showing us what he's cleaning up. And so far, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, well, he's promised us. I think he's the right guy for it. And Bongino's on his way. I think today, tomorrow, in the next couple of days, Bongino should be the deputy director of the FBI. The two of them, I'm pretty darn confident in. We really, really appreciate your time, Mr. Gilliam. Always good to have you on. We'll get you back again soon.
There's a lot of things going on, and a lot of it's connected, Eric.
Yes,
That's
sir.
an important thing for people to realize.
We will stay on it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jonathan Gilliam, folks. All right, I got a little surprise. Even the folks over here don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to, yeah, okay. I won't say exactly what that is, but you know that guy right there. Mr. Kid Rock. He's a pal. I've been talking to him the last couple of days. Maybe later in the show, we'll explain what that surprise is all about. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Well, there it is. White House, the front lawn. Look at that green coming out of the fountain. I don't know that I've ever seen the fountain on before. I've been there a bunch of times. Maybe I just never noticed. Certainly haven't seen it green before. And look, they even dyed the grass green for St. Patrick's Day. Amazing the extent that Donald Trump will do to embrace fellow Irish Americans, isn't it? I'm kidding. By the way, have you ever had green beer? Do they make green vodka? Because I don't drink beer. I just drink vodka. But I'm on Rumble right now, and you guys are all over. You're saying I look too dark. What? I look too dark? Okay. Well, we'll work on it. I'm on Rumble, so let me know what you're thinking. Oh, look, there they are. Skycam working. There's no green beer in here, no green vodka. It's Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, whatever it is. All righty, right. St. Patrick's Day. The corrupt Democrats really didn't think that Biden's last-minute, barely conscious flurry of completely immoral pardons, they thought was never going to be brought up again? Did they? Turns out old Joe didn't even put ink to paper on any of those signatures. They signed them digitally. He wasn't even in the room. That's right. The former president of the United States, who clearly had no control over his final executive actions, auto-signed key documents that bailed out his band of political thugs before Trump took over. Here's what our current president had to say about that.
To follow up on the Biden auto pen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the former president now null and void?
Well, I think so. It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void, because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an auto pen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, it's just one example, but the J6 Unselect Committee. They gave, think of it, they gave pardons with an auto pen. I don't think Biden knew anything about it. And what they did is they deleted and destroyed all of the information that took them over a year to get. And the reason they did that is because the information was very incriminating about them.
So they have an auto pen, right? It literally takes the exact same signature and they apply it to these documents. I get it. Some presidents don't have time to sign every single thing, but something as important as a pardon, on your way out of office, I actually think there is a rule or a law, a policy maybe, that I think you actually need an ink pen, not an auto sign. I'm pretty sure of that. And by the way, he wasn't even barely coherent at the end of his presidency. If he didn't know what he's doing, they should all be null and void. I love what Trump does, though. He throws it out there, and all those people who got those pardons are like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? And he lets the courts take care of it and lets the courts work it out. Great idea. Love what he's doing. By the way, Fauci, if they signed an auto pen, you should be the first one that they look to make your pardon void and null. Well, not that it should shock anyone, but the national support for the whiny Democrats, guess what, folks? It has officially bottomed out. Even CNN is owning the fact that their party, well, is at an all-time low. Listen.
Brand new exclusive CNN poll that paints a brutal reality for Democrats as they struggle to mount a unified opposition to President Trump. Americans' favorable views of the Democratic Party's brand are at a record low, just 29%. That's compared to 36% for Republicans. It is the lowest ever recorded for Democrats in CNN polling going back more than 30 years.
Yeah, see that not only is it the lowest support favorable rating, it's the widest. It's called underwater by the widest. So their favorable is 29%, and their unfavorable is like 58. That spread, that's the widest it's ever been. You know, I guess, no kidding, they got smoked in the midterm in the last election. They're going to get smoked in the midterms. 2026 is going to be a lot of fun because everyone thought it was going to be a bloodbath for Republicans after Trump won in 24. But look at this, on their way to the lowest of all time, headed even lower. This is a perfect storm for the Republicans to continue what they've started. As Democrats continue to tank, Donald Trump's Republican Party finally has this country on the path to success for the first time in many, many, many years. Decades, actually. People are actually optimistic about where we're heading. Now, get this. NBC even had to eat crow. Watch how hard it is for them to deal with this one. Watch.
First of all, the mood of the country, this really jumped out. We asked folks, is it on the right direction or the wrong direction? That 44%, you say right direction, that's up since November. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, the last time it cracked 40%, you got to go back to 2012. The last time it actually hit 44 or higher, January of 2004. So a lot of this is Republicans, but independents, that number is also up since the election on the direction of the country.
So 20 years since the last time right direction was at 44%. This is amazing. Timing couldn't be great. Trump is absolutely loving all this stuff. Remember that guy, Don Lemon, who was on CNN? Remember Cuomo and Lemon? They used to toss to each other at the end, kind of like Bannon and I do, but they used to do it, and they were always hating on Trump. They had some bad Trump derangement syndrome. They were all also very pro-COVID lockdowns and all that. Remember all those? Well, Don Lemon got bounced out of CNN, is looking for relevance again. Well, he will do almost anything for that relevance. This man oozes desperation. Get this, he's even now resorted to insulting black people just to see his pathetic name in headlines again.
It's the same thing that when I see not all black Republicans, but I see a black MAGA person who is carrying Donald Trump's water and they know that he's lying, it is the shortest line to the front. Because if you're black and you're whatever, you're just in line with a bunch of other Democrats that are doing the same thing that you're doing. But if you become a black MAGA person, it's like, whoa, let's book this person, let's put him on television.
So you don't think you can be a sincere black MAGA person?
No, I just said, I don't think that I just said I think there can be sincere Republicans.
But you can't be a sincere black Republican.
I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can be a rational MAGA, be black and be a rational MAGA person. I think you can be black and be a Republican.
I think they would find that very insulting.
Well, I mean, the truth is often insulting.
Even the very liberal, the very leftist, the very progressive Bill Maher is taking issue with Don Lemon, probably because it's pretty racist. Don, it was pretty racist. You can't say a black guy because he's MAGA is not rational. That you're generalizing. It's exactly the definition of racism. When you generalize a group because of whatever color of their skin, in this point you did color of the skin and the fact that they're MAGA, you're generalizing. That's racist, Don. Racist, Donnie. It's not that important. Chill. The more airtime that our friend Jazzy Jasmine Crockett gets, the better off the Republican Party will be, not her party, the Democrats, the Republican, our side. This woman is an airhead. There's really no other way to put it. Her viral, mind-numbing rants continue to exemplify exactly why the Democrats got smoked in November and really don't have a leg to stand on right now as they look ahead to future elections, 2026 midterms. With that said, Crockett isn't concerned about future elections. In fact, she doesn't even think we have elections coming up now that Trump is in power.
You're close with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Some of your fellow House Democrats say, and not just progressives, by the way, we've heard that moderates have said this too, that they're ready to support her to challenge Chuck Schumer in a Democratic primary. Would you get behind that?
That's 4 years from now. If you were asking me at least in 2 years, then I would have an absolute answer. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment. We don't even know what elections will look like in 4 years, if we will have elections.
Yeah, I think she and AOC are, in a race to the bottom. We'll do a poll in a bit. Joy Reid may not have a show anymore on MSNBC, but her race baiting certainly hasn't stopped these days. Crazy Joy will sit down with anyone who will have her, and the second she gets a chance, she digs back into her pocket, her bag of tricks, and pulls out that race card. Listen.
And I mean, and as somebody who's, my parents, my father was from the Congo and my mother was from Guyana. And so they were the immigrants who came here on purpose and they got the rude awakening. My mother got the rude awakening, like, oh, it's racist here. that's weird. For some reason, she was like, told me, why go to first school? Yeah, she's like, tell me this is the land of opportunity, but not for me. It's weird. But I am familiar.
That's a race card playing by the folks, African-American folks who used to be on Legacy TV. This one's hilarious. Everyone's dream should be to find a partner who looks at them with love and amazement when they speak, kind of like when my little Ari girl, if I'm eating a burger and she just stares at me for a bite of that burger, well, she kind of looks at me with that love. Well, this is clearly not the mantra, and the Clinton household pay very, very careful attention to Bill Clinton's eyes while Hillary Clinton opens her pie hole.
And these people will stop at nothing. And yes, the Russians helped them last time. The Russians are helping them now. And you cover the White House. You know that the White House has said, don't brief the Congress. Don't even tell them in classified settings what the Russians are doing this time.
Yeah, it's like, how long? How much longer? I don't know, Bill. I don't know. No one can blame you, brother. We'll be right back. 2 minutes. Oh, maybe the surprise is coming up. Maybe. We'll see. 2 minutes. There you go. Nolens, folks. Nolens, Louisiana. Beautiful town. Great food. It's one of the greatest food cities in America. Anthony Fauci, shaking in his designer boots right now, likely Italian boots. Not only could he lose the preemptive pardon the Biden White House gave him using Biden's electronic signature auto pen while he slept on a Caribbean beach, but now the very people who helped him cover up the true origins of COVID that had his nasty little paws all over it are finally revealing the truth. The truth eventually reveals itself, and those who work to hide that truth will also be exposed eventually. And what seems like a miracle, the New York Times seems to have given in to the truth an editorial with the headline, "We were badly misled about the event that changed our lives." Really, New York Times? Understatement of the century. Much? Hey, New York Times, how about we badly misled you? That's what you should have written, New York Times. There, we fixed it for you. It's rich for one of the worst perpetrators of propaganda to pretend they're one of us, the victims, New York Times. The Times, together with Joe Biden and all of his evil cohorts, including Fauci and every single member of the media, including social media, actively worked to serve up their propaganda. Nice try, New York Times, but you were as much a part of the misleading as anyone. And now you're trying to absolve yourselves like you're a victim? BS. We will not let you do it. It's accountability time, and you're very much a part of the group that needs to be held accountable. So on Sunday, the New York Times ran an op-ed piece acknowledging not only that the COVID virus likely originated in a lab, but the government officials and scientists conspired to keep the evidence to back it up a big secret. The lab leak theory was censored on social media because of pressure from the administration. This piece has sprinklings of, oh, how could we have known? And you could almost understand why we said what we said. And the worst one, we probably shouldn't have done it. This is a rendition of the past 5 years of history, a reinventing that gets a resounding nice try from the rest of us. Sure, those people lied, but so did you, New York Times. So did you. We cannot and will not let the New York Times off the hook that easily. The Times suddenly blasting scientists and officials for covering up evidence that COVID-19 likely originated from a gain-of-function lab leak. Interesting, but it's 5 years too late. The piece condemns the likes of Francis Collins and Anthony Fauci. The piece scolds all of the authors of the Proximal Origin paper and EcoHealth Alliance for publishing deceptive studies labeling the lab leak theory a conspiracy, even while privately admitting that, quoting, the lab escape version of this is so friggin' likely to have happened because they were already doing this type of work and the molecular data is fully consistent with that scenario. They knew all along and purposely misled the public. The New York Times op-ed also delivers an ominous warning that this ongoing cover-up and denial mean that dangerous gain-of-function experiments, the exact kind of research that likely created COVID-19, let it spread everywhere, are still happening right now in, by the way, inadequate, secure labs, quietly endorsed by the scientific establishment community. So basically, it's not a question of if, but when the next deadly virus escapes. So dangerous, so dangerous. And this is what the like of Senator Rand Paul and Ron Johnson were so desperately trying to get to the root of. Remember this?
What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab and NIH funded it.
That is
not.
Can't
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one.
See that little lying on their oath. Shame on you, Anthony. Fauci, Collins, these scientists, they're all guilty of this treacherous misleading that only led to more pandemics. But I'm not letting the New York Times off the hook so quickly here either. Remember when the Times would call you a misinformation spreader and social media platforms would ban you and me and Trump for believing COVID-19 originated in a lab? You see, they've completely, conveniently left out is that they're also the ones doing the deceiving. The latest spin is particularly egregious given that the New York Times' own reporter, Don McNeil, was deliberately lied to by Fauci's gang of pay-for-play scientists who later laughed about deceiving the reporter. You might argue that this means the New York Times was itself misled, but here's a telltale sign. They never reported that their own reporter had been lied to. They kept quiet. The only place you could find the truth was on Twitter. And it was Twitter back then. That's 100% proof they were in on the cover-up. Maybe not McNeil himself, but certainly the New York Times as an institution. They weren't just complicit. They were active participants in the biggest deception in history. They knowingly covered for liars, pushed false narratives, and led the world to suffer the consequences. Absolutely vile. Oh, and what is this? This is the New York Times lead infectious disease writer for health and science tweeting way back in 2021. Someday we'll stop talking about the lab leak theory and maybe even admit its racist racist roots. But alas, the day is not here yet. Sorry, but any so-called COVID reckoning from the New York Times that fails to confront its own relentless lies isn't a reckoning at all. Shame on you, New York Times. You lied, you got caught now, and you're not man enough to admit it. That means we're going to take away your journalism card and throw you back. Legacy media, folks, I've said it a million times, you don't hate them enough. We'll be back in 2.5 with Steve. There it is. Las Vegas. I think that's Bellagio, if I'm not mistaken. I spent a lot of time there, usually at the Wynn Hotel. Steve Wynn, good man, good friend. No longer part of Steve Wynn and the Wynn Hotel, but great folks. All right, so here's what we do. This is a very free-flowing show, not your legacy media typical cable show. But so Friday, if you remember, we have the voice of God. We're Mad Dog, Mad Diggity Dog, Mad Dog in the control room. I can talk to him. He can talk to me. And we had Steve Bannon on. Let's bring Steve in for this because he was part of this. Remember, Steve, on Friday, I was looking for a soundbite, and I didn't want, it was The View they were talking about. I don't want to see the soundbite. But while we're on, this happened. Play what happened on Friday, guys. Can you roll the View soundbite, guys? Yes.
Stand by.
There we go.
We don't have a view.
They didn't have it ready. Steven? All right. Okay. Well, I saw a soundbite of Sonny Hostin like really ripping India, and I just wanted you to respond. And I called out Mad Dog, and they don't have it ready. And that's like, I remember seeing the email that we need the soundbite of Sonny Hostin, calling out Steve Bannon because it'd be great for Steve to react to it. And I was like, I'm sure I had it. And afterwards, like, no, we didn't see it. So I checked back in my email, and sure enough, up to the top, it was sent, but it's just sent to myself and another producer in New York. We have a New York crew and we have a West Palm Beach. So I called, I put Mad Dog on blast, Steve, and I shouldn't have done that. I'm mea culpaing right now. I guess that happens in TV though, right?
Hang on, hang on, stop, full stop. Brother.
Yes.
Every now, you're a Zen master. We're Zen masters. Every night again, you give Mad Dog and all the guys just a hit upside with a stick. And they got to think through. It's not rational. Of course, it's not rational. But that makes the Zen warriors, these warriors, even tougher. It's not rational.
That's right. It's back
Mad Dog's tough. Mad Dog's a tough man,
and they're good. And they're all.
This is the seven. He's part of the seven samurai. He's samurai warrior. Just hit him upside the head with the stick.
He was so nice too. He's like, I don't think I got that. I don't think I ever heard about it. I'm like, I know you did. Anyways, Trump just announced, Steve.
Hold on. First, whoa, hang on. Stop. Why are you showing Bellagio? Of course, you're at Treasure Island.
Oh, Treasure
pirate ship.
I think
you're the pirates. You're not.
Didn't they knock that down?
I hang out at Bellagio. Well, when you stop going, I think. No, what do you mean you hanging out Bellagio? That's too upscale. You're pirating.
No.
The new improved Eric Bolling.
I'm a Steve Wynn back in the day, but I guess I should leave because they bounced Steve. But it's so yeah. I think Treasure Island's a blast from the past. But listen, there's some breaking news. Can you roll the soundbite, guys?
We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow.
So what do you think there, Steve? We're getting the JFK files finally. Thoughts?
Grassy knoll. Grassy knoll.
I mean,
let's see.
So a lot of people.
CIA, Mexico City.
Yeah, whatever. But we've been waiting for this, and poor Pam Bondi got lit up a little bit, right? So because she said she was going to get him out right away, and then there was that New York group of FBI, an office that was holding a truckload of files, and people were really ticked off that she wasn't, making promises she wasn't going to keep. Kash Patel got involved. I think it's great. Whatever's in it, I think we're all ready to see it. And by the way, it's interesting that he made that announcement from the Kennedy Center where he is right now. That art center in D.C. right near where you are.
High Church. We're going to cover that. Hopefully get Rick Renell on. We're going to cover that. To go to the Justice Department on Friday and then the Kennedy Center, that's taken to two high grounds of the deep state's culture. The temple over at the, their temple of enforcement and empowerment over at Main Justice, named after Robert F. Kennedy, and then to come to the Kennedy Center, which is high church for them. President Trump knows what he's doing. The only thing I would caution people about these files, it's only what you can take, what the deep state does not bury, deep. So the Kennedy files, let's see what they got. I know. Well, let's say this. Let's see what they show up with tomorrow.
I'd like
right,
to see
just like the Epstein files.
Yeah,
let's see what they show up with.
As unredacted as possible. How about the Epstein file, not just the list? Let's see all that.
I just think. I find it. How do you get there and say you're going to do it? And there's 200 pages, and all the people had already seen the 200 pages. I mean, the people that are following that closely have, they've already seen everything that's out there. They've got the receipts. You got to bring stuff they haven't seen. So I would just caution these people, do a thorough job. And when you come next time, give everything you've got your hands on. And you should have, I think, polygraph results for staff at Southern District of New York, which is, it reports to the Attorney General, not to the FBI, not the FBI field office, SDNY, which is a rat's nest and should be purged of dozens and dozens of people that have not been done yet. So I would just say, when you come to the community, when you come to MAGA, when you come to the American people, you better do your homework in these things. And they ought to have a list of who was questioned.
Bring it.
And who turned it over, because people are very focused on this. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Epstein files, all of it.
And it's people like Bannon,
UFOs.
Wave, go, swim through this, take it bit by bit, piecemeal it, read it, know it, see where start pulling at those strings, Steve. I'm gonna give it to you, brother.
Eric, this was a this was a massive fight in the first. This was a massive fight in the first term. It was a massive fight about releasing these files, and now when you do it, I think you also ought to list everybody that had responsibility sign off. And to me, they should have done a polygraph test that they turned everything. I think that's how unconvinced the public is. They're getting complete information. I think this is a huge deal, and tomorrow we'll see. But it's a huge deal. Robert F. Kennedy's Main Justice. John F. Kennedy is the Culture Center. President Trump went to both. One on Friday, one today. They're both historic and really seizing the high ground against the deep state in the imperial capital, sir.
Beautiful. Give it to you, Steve. Talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, brother. Eric, always great. Thank you, sir. Those tee-ups are fantastic, and the clips are amazing. Mad Dog, the clips are amazing. Don't ever change.